Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, the teachings of Rabbi Eliezer Melamed Shlita. Hope everyone had a great Shabbos and a restful Shabbos. We begin a new week of learning. Please continue davening for Charlei Tzvah Yisrael, for Shalom Chalptzua Yisrael, and return of our hostages for Kuras Yisrael. We learn each day Leili Nishmat Sarah and Daniel Shimon ben Harav Daron v'Shel Shem Gam Damo. The next chapter, B'chol Lashon. Halacha. Efshar lehispalel b'targum l'shonos zoros. So according to the Gemara in Sota Daf Lamed Beis Amud Aleph, technically speaking, one is allowed to daven in any language. You can explain the davening into any language. Ulam mitzvah min hamuvcha lispal b'ivris. However, it is considered the optimal performance to daven in Hebrew. Shebachibru anshe knesses hagdolas nesach tefillah, because that's how the men of the Great Assembly who wrote the tefillah, they wrote it in that language. V'Lashon HaKodesh, which is, of course, Lashon HaKodesh, we say Hebrew, I mean Lashon HaKodesh, Uva Nivra Ha'olam, and it's through this language that the world was created. Ve'omnam Ladas HaRif, Rak HaMispal B'Makam Sheish B'Minyan Rishoy L'Yispal B'Safa Acheres. According to the Rif, only someone who is davening in a place where there is a minyan can he daven in another language, because when you have a minyan, the divine presence dwells there, and therefore your prayers will be accepted regardless, even if it's not in Lashon HaKodesh. However, if one is davening alone without a minyan, and you daven in a foreign language, then your tefillah will not be accepted. However, most poskim agree with the opinion of Rabbeinu Asher, the Rosh, that even when davening alone, you can daven in a different language. The only thing we don't say when we're by ourselves without a minyan is anything in Aramaic. So you might remember this, let's say, when someone is saying slichos by oneself without a minyan, that departs in Aramaic. We wouldn't say Kaddish by ourselves, that davar sheba gedusha, and this is the halacha. Od yisrael l'tefillah b'ivris. There's another benefit and another additional quality of davening in Hebrew. Shamispala ba av she'ena mevinosa kol zman shu mevinasa pasuk harishon shel kriyas shema v'esabracha harishon shel tefillas hamida yotzei dechavasa. Is that when davening in Hebrew, even if you don't understand what you're saying, but so long as you understand the first line of kriyas shema and the first bracha of the Shemona Esrei, then you are yotzei davening. However, in a different language, only if you understand it in its entirety will be yotzei. L'maisa. So practically speaking, mishe'ein mevin ivrit, someone who does not understand Hebrew, which could be a lot of us, certainly here in the diaspora, rishoy livchar keitel lispal, so you could choose how you want to daven. Mitzad echad yesh yisrom l'tefillah b'safa shu makir. So on the one hand, there's a benefit of davening in a language which you understand, sheba yuchal lechaven yoser, and then you can have better kavana, you can better concentration. Mitzad sheni, on the other hand, imispala be'ivris, if you daven in Hebrew, you will have the added benefit of having daven in Lashon HaKodesh, which is the optimal performance. And davening in other languages is only a temporary fix. It's something that you can only do perhaps once in a while, for those who do not understand Hebrew. You can't have a minyan, a set minyan, that will daven in another language. He said this is one of the sins. When you go back to Germany, in the original beginnings of the Reform movement, where they transformed the prayers into German, and they completely forgot Lashon HaKodesh. And this just opened a great wide opening for those who left traditional Judaism and for mixing into other cultures and for all sorts of confusion. So this is an interesting topic. So can you do certain parts of the prayers in English, let's say? Now, if it's not going to replace it, if it's just in addition to help people understand, or if it's not part of tefillah. So for instance, in our shul, we say a prayer in English for the American government. So that's not part of tefillah, so that doesn't even count. But if, let's say, we were to say, instead of saying Shemona Esrei or Kedusha, we're going to say that part in English, well, then you wouldn't be yotzei. That's not something that would be allowed. There is a mila to daven in Hebrew. And by the way, nowadays also there's no excuse because we have Siddurim with translations and explanations, interlinear translations, all these sorts of tools that are readily accessible for anyone who wants to daven and wants to take it seriously, can certainly at least understand the basic meaning of the words which one is reciting, and therefore we shouldn't run into any of these problems at all. But it's great to run into each and every one of you now for another week of learning. Please continue for Chayalei Tzvah and Yisrael Shlosh Lam L'Chol P'tzvei Yisrael. The return of our hostages, L'Kfuras Yisrael, Nishmat and Daniel Shimon, Manor Avner, L'Shlosh Shem Damo. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.